actually want to do, but took my PPEs and stuff. But in and out during the day, Trump was tweeting about liberate Minnesota, liberate Virginia, liberate Michigan. Meanwhile, all his Betsy DeVos paid for hoods were out there, no masks, no nothing, protesting to open up the states. I also believe they had one in Florida also. And the other item of news today was Cuomo finally getting his back against the wall and saying, you know what, stand up, take charge, you're a leader. And Cuomo's, one of his quotes was, you know what, if I quit right now to go fishing, and I said, I've saved thousands of lives, the rest of you are on your own, how would the people in my state feel about that? And he proceeded to give Donnie a good ass chewing on TV. So from what I hear, he's recalling the Navy ship Comfort to go to Louisiana now, where he's appreciated more.
Oh my God.
I haven't seen anyone to verify that, but I wouldn't doubt it.
Oh no, I wouldn't either. I wouldn't either. How do you show your appreciation for a president when you're a governor? Just what do you do?
You have to tell him he's the greatest.
Oh, is that it? You
He's
just don't
right.
You just don't expect him to do his job, huh?
Right. You just tell him he's wonderful and everything he's done's perfect, just like his perfect phone call, and that's what he wants. You know, a little pat on the head and rub his behind, and
Oh, wow.
Did you ever watch their when they introduce each other, it's like Trump and Pence or whoever they introduce, the first 5 statements out of whoever's mouth gets introduced is like, we'd like to thank the president for everything he's doing. He's doing a wonderful job. Without him, we would be nowhere. This response has been wonderful. So they start off with 5 comments, 20 seconds long of just praising him. And if they don't do that, then the questions come out as, are you ready to fire Fauci because he didn't kiss your ass yesterday? Something like that.
yeah, I hear Trump poked Pence in the eye yesterday too. Reached around to scratch his ass.
Oh, good Lord.
So Phil, how are things your way?
I'm alive, so it's up and down. Each day is a new day. It's up and down. Who would have thought we would be here? When I was considering what my April would look like, I guess my biggest problems were, will I get briefs in on time? Will I be successful on those briefs? And now we are not only fighting a virus that nobody really knows anything about, but we're fighting a virus that's decimating my community. So I don't really give a shit what the fights are about. I don't care what any governor's saying. I don't care what the president is saying. But I do care about Black folks because Black lives matter, especially at this time. So, it's magnifying. There's a saying, when America gets a cold, Black America gets pneumonia, and we got pneumonia, man.
Yeah, that's what I can see. Phyllis, what community you in? I don't know what city you're near.
I live in Nashville. I live in Nashville and the Howard County area in Maryland part-time. But when we got locked down, I happened to be in Nashville. I'm originally from Tennessee, and my parents live 2 hours from Nashville. So I chose to hunker down in my home here. So I'm in Nashville. But when I talk about the community, I'm talking about Black folks all over. I'm talking about people I grew up with. I'm talking about people in Africa when people suggested we should try vaccines on people in Africa. I'm talking about the Caribbean nations where these cruise ships think that they should just dock there with all these sick people. I'm talking about people who are not as privileged as I am, who do not have health insurance, who if they go into a doctor now, they know that they may be the life that is spared. It terrifies me to hear about the lack of ventilators, and that some people may have to make choices because Black people know we never get chosen.
Nope.
Right, and they closed down so many rural hospitals from what I was reading here in the last year or so, that it has to really hurt the southern states disproportionately. It's something like 20% higher hit in the Black community?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tale of two cities. You know, I live in Nashville. I live in the heart of Nashville. And I don't deny my privilege. I live across the street from Vanderbilt Hospital, which is taking a lead on this thing. And I live about 5 blocks away from another hospital, St. Thomas, which is taking a lead. In fact, there was an article the other day about how well Nashville has done. When they told us to lock down, we locked down. So the traffic cameras are recording no activity. Cell phone towers are not moving. I mean, I walked somewhere that was 4 miles yesterday, and that was the farthest I've been in a month. I usually just keep walking a mile loop around my home. So while news like that is encouraging, it's not encouraging to see the pockets of communities that have been hard hit. Even me saying that I have only been a mile radius in my home in the last month lets you know that I have everything I need. There's a grocery store a block from my home. There are 2 or 3 drugstores a block from my home. I live across the street from Vanderbilt. If I show the symptoms, it would be quicker for me to walk. In fact, I would walk I can see the testing center from the front of my building. So while things like that are good, you know, they make me feel good. I'm in a city, not really a state, but a city, because our mayor locked down the city before the governor locked down the state. But, you know, I have family members. I have people who I'm very concerned about. So I don't ever let my privilege take me away from my people.
Good for you.
Did you happen to see Thomas Tull? Being that we're in Western Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh Steelers news is still something that comes across our Twitter feed, at least mine. And Thomas Tull is a part owner of the Steelers. Mm-hmm. Probably, you know, not a lot of people know his name because he's not a Rooney. Roonies are the famous Steeler owners, but he recently donated $4.2 million to local community hospitals that serve mostly Black communities.
Yeah.
He chose $4.2 million because it was in honor of Jackie Robinson's number 42.
Great.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. So it's a pretty cool gesture. I haven't seen a whole lot about it, but it was good to see that come out.
Yeah. I mean, this thing is just, I think it's having so many impacts that none of us could imagine. You know, Frank and I are bar hoppers and music lovers. In better times, we are people that are and whiskey and beer lovers. So we are people who are, you know, 3 and 4 times a week at a bar, at a music show. And we come to know these bartenders. I mean, I don't think I've ever been in a bar with Frank where he didn't know everybody's name, especially the people serving us. And I don't think he's ever been in a bar with me where I didn't know everybody's name and the people serving us. And just think about their livelihoods. You know, there's a bar that I go to where my favorite bartender and her partner work at the same bar, the same restaurant that is now closed down. So, and they have a child, a small child. So just think about how that's decimating. You know, Frank and I are attorneys, so attorneys will be okay in this thing because we'll find something to sue about or argue about or write about. But think of entire industries, just wow, just overnight. And literally, this thing was overnight. And I don't think any of us recognize the magnitude of it. And now we've got to deal with the aftermath of it.
You know, the worst part about being in the restaurant business, hospitality, is they're hourly still at the 91 level, about $270 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So
they on tips.
They're done.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of those tips, you know yourself, you're hiding, you know, from the IRS when you're in that business. Yeah. So when you go to collect unemployment, you have nothing. What are they going to pay you? $100 a week?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So strange times. But I was telling Frank yesterday that every day I try to find something good. I try to find something to be grateful for. We'll be scarred. Hopefully we won't be destroyed. We have to find a new way to live, though. This has shown us that we have to find. I mean, this has magnified the gap that we have. And we've got to find a way to live better.
It's funny, we talked a little bit about that yesterday, kind of unintentionally. You know, the first part of our broadcast yesterday was about how will things change after this, you know, and one of the things that was brought up was not so much people being averse to telecommuting and working from home and things like that, because obviously it can be done. There was a lot of consequences. I don't want to go back over all that today, but it's just interesting that, you know, you're talking about these better ways of living. And through necessity, we're going to hopefully find those kind of things. Hopefully, there's hope.
Yeah, it's so weird. I was telling a client today that she said, "How are you doing?" And I said, "I'm doing very well today." And that's actually scary because this new normal has become normal to me. So for instance, as I said, I live in a neighborhood with stores and I love to walk and jog and do all of that. So I've always walked to the grocery store and walked on all my errands. But now when I do, I used to just grab my credit card, grab my house keys, my shopping bags and head out. And now when I head out, I pack a bag and I pack wipes in there, sanitizer. I decide which mask I'm going to wear, if I'm just going to put a covering on or if I'm going to actually wear a mask because I'm limited on masks. And I was telling my client, it's so weird. The first few days I did it, weeks ago, it was different to me. And now I'm doing it without thinking. And I don't know if that's good or bad, is that now it's just normal to say, oh, I got to go out the house. Let me put my mask on. I walk through the door and I immediately start taking off whatever I have on and putting it in the washing machine because, all of these tips we get on wipe your groceries down, not opening the door for my delivery people, just leaving a note and leaving. And I have been leaving tips, cash tips for my delivery people because of some of the problems I've heard about them getting tips through the apps. And I'll Lysol the money down and then put it on the door and put a note, this money is wet, but I promise you it's just Lysol on it. So, that all of that kind of stuff is weird. I'm an allergy sufferer, as you can see and hear in my voice, and I'm terrified to sneeze. I'm sitting outside on my balcony now and it faces a courtyard so my neighbors can see and hear me. I'm terrified to sneeze and I have to sneeze so bad right now. So, just this new normal we're in.
Yeah, people have a fantastic way to adapt.
Mm-hmm.
We really do. We figure out a way to adapt, and the species, I should say, and we're very good at it.
Yeah.
I fear that we're going to not learn our now. Yeah, I really do. I think some of us will, but it's going to be such a minority.
Yeah.
That it's really not going to matter. You're just pissing in the ocean, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think like everything, like every big thing we go through, some of us learn the lesson and many don't. And then we go through something else and a few more people learn the lesson. I mean, even with this, even as shelter in place orders were going out, look at the length of time it took people. I never did not take this serious. I did not think it would get to this level. I mean, I can remember in February, the last time I traveled was the beginning of March. And I can remember then being on the plane, but I'm always a germaphobe, so I always wipe my tray down. But there was something different that day. Mm-hmm. I specifically remember my last flight. There was something different about do I want to take anything from the flight attendant? I was hyper conscious that the flight attendant was standing over me talking and that particles could be raining down. And so, I was taking it serious, but I've always been an over user of hand sanitizer and hand soap. But I think it just, it is going to definitely take deaths. But I think because our number of deaths, people look at it, say, well, it's only, this many percentage, not that many, or we still have this myth that it's older people or people with underlying conditions. But yeah, I just hope that as we go through more and more things, more and more people will begin to take it serious.
Then we have yesterday where, Dr. Oz, Dr. Phil, and who was the other person that, I think there was a third person that talked about how the 2.5 to 3% deaths is basically just part of the, you're going to have to accept that. So that we can reopen schools, reopen work, reopen society again. So, we have the counter of the people who are trying to be conscious about, protecting ourselves and our loved ones and our family members. And then the folks who are like, well, people are going to die anyway, whether they die from coronavirus or something else, they're going to die anyway. So why should we sit at home and
say that, or either they're saying it out of, it's two extremes. People who are saying it out are saying it on one end out of privilege, because obviously the people you just mentioned will be able to get very great care if they happen to contract this virus. But then there's also a handful of people who are acting and saying things out of desperation. So I don't know if you all saw the shots from Texas and Florida yesterday about the communities whose stimulus checks did not actually get deposited to them, but they were deposited to the tax place that had done their taxes. So mostly Black neighborhood, there were hundreds of people in front of this tax office, not social distancing, of course, ready to riot about where were their stimulus checks. And on one hand, people were saying, oh, look at them. They're not following shelter in place orders. They're not socially distancing. But also that $1,200 is going to mean a lot to them. Maybe on this call, on this podcast, maybe $1,200. I'm drinking $1,200 right now, but I definitely understood it. I understood the desperation of why you would rush out there. I understand when people say, well, why are you still getting on public transportation to go to work? I don't personally have to catch public transportation, but I understand the desperation of people whose jobs have not shut down, who say, you must come clean this hotel. You must get on this bus to come clean this hotel. So I think, until there's some middle ground between privileged and desperate people, we're going to be in a piss hole as we are right now. But life has definitely changed. And no matter which industry you're in, it's changed. I was on a conference call for a case today, and the judge was saying, we can't have a trial. You all will never pull a jury because they can't sit next to each other. And I had just said that yesterday, like, there's no way I would want to be in a jury box right now. So I don't know. Are we going to redesign the courtrooms, Frank, and make bigger jury boxes?
Yeah, I mean, we already have the video monitors in front of all the jurors,
right?
To do the exhibits and things like that. So I wonder if we could do it in a way that, not all the jurors were sitting together, if they just had them in the courtroom, in the pews in the courtroom, and just cleared the courtroom of any observers, but just let them be, all throughout the courtroom, sitting in each row, one person in each row.
So would we turn around to present our case?
Interesting. I think we would have to either do that or maybe have a video monitor where our faces would be facing them.
Okay.
Or the judge would have to let us, turn around and say, we're going to present to the jury. They're the ones deciding the case. I also, are your courts closed, or are they just doing, like piecemeal stuff, or what's going on in Tennessee as far as the courts go?
So state courts are closed. Of course, they're open for emergency bail hearings, which was a big issue when this first happened. So things like bail hearings, orders of protection, which, we can talk about that, how domestic violence has shot through the roof during this time. But our civil proceedings, every deadline is stayed until May 6th right now. And then federal court is pretty much the same thing. Our deadlines are not suspended, but we're doing hearings and things by phones. Hearings, some of them are extended, but if it's something you can do by phone, we're doing it by phone.
Yeah, interesting. Statute of limitations, are you filing electronically or by mail and just counting on the mail stamp date, or what are you doing with that?
Well, state court, the statutes are suspended from March 13th, which is when our lockdown went into place, shelter in place went into place. The states didn't go into place, but Nashville's went into place, and the Tennessee Supreme Court sits in Nashville. So our statutes, if you had anything that was due between March 13th and May 6th, you start counting again on May 6th.
Wow, that's impressive. That's pretty progressive, because I don't think Maryland has done that yet.
No, they haven't. I don't think we're not having some proceedings in Maryland, but it's not suspended. Yeah, ours is suspended. Even our CLE requirements, we still have to do them, but we don't have to do them live. So that is a good thing out of this.
Yeah, that's interesting. I know that what we're doing in Maryland is that, fortunately, I don't have any cases that have a statute of limitations coming up. Basically, just real briefly, that's the drop dead date on a case. Yeah, I think you all know that, but if any of our listeners, if you don't file your case before that statute of limitations, it's dead. You can't bring the case after that. So if there's let's say the venue is in a county that doesn't have electronic filing, we're just going to file it in the improper venue with electronic filing, and then we'll just have the case transferred after everybody comes back on board, because the courts are closed, but they are accepting electronic filing. So that's our remedy there.
Good stuff. The EEOC is not issuing right to sue letters, which is actually a good thing, unless you request them, which is a good thing. So just a quick overview. A right to sue letter is the letter you get from the EEOC giving you the right to sue your employer. But once you get that right to sue, you only have 90 days. So for some people, that's not an issue because they already have an attorney. But let's say you get a right to sue letter and you have to look for an attorney. As Frank can tell you, it can take a long time to secure an attorney sometimes. So we were worried about people getting right to sue letters and that 90 days running and it's still going on. So that is one good thing that the EEOC has done, is they are not, unless you request it, issuing a right to sue.
90 days goes fast. It goes
Very fast.
Yeah.
We've been in this over 30 days.
So Lou, when you were out and about today, how many folks did you see? Has there been an increase in mask wearing around here?
Well, let me tell you real quick. I had to go, and the only reason I went is it's a woman and her husband I know own this little company, and they're moving, and they wanted some doors. They told me to come take a look. So when I got there, I had my mask on and everything, and most of her people did because they were all scattered doing work. But I took advantage of the cheap gas on the way home. So I stopped at the pump, State Line, TikTok, got out my wipes because I always wipe the gas handle and the pin pad before I do anything now. So then I ran into Sheets there just to, hit the bathroom before I come home. So I had my mask on, the workers had masks on, and I would say 8 of the 10 people that were in there did not.
Wow. Well, it's not. I know it's not mandated in Pennsylvania until midnight Sunday.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
this is Ohio I was in. So.
Yeah. So my question was going to be: are they under the same time mandate, or they already have, or don't they have it at all?
They have the suggestion they should be doing it. So as I was driving, I could see a couple. When I was slowed down by some places, I could see, like the place I was near a giant eagle, so I could see people walking in with masks. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people are taking suggestions, and other ones are just oblivious.
Yeah.
I don't know whether they're oblivious or they think Trump and Laura Ingraham are telling them the truth. I don't have a clue.
Yeah, I think it depends on where people are, how much they trust the media, what they see. Again, as I said, I live right across from Vanderbilt and a few blocks from St. Thomas. So it's real to me, when I walk down the street and I see the Vanderbilt. When I was doing my jog the other week, I saw the helicopter landing, and that's no big thing. We see the helicopter landing on the heliport at Vanderbilt all the time, but now I always think when I see the helicopter, I wonder if they're bringing in a patient who can't breathe from this virus. I wonder. So you don't really have to tell us twice. I would say in my neighborhood, and we aren't mandated here yet in Tennessee or in Nashville to wear coverings, but I would say in my neighborhood, which also my neighborhood is a highly educated neighborhood. Many of the doctors that work and the medical professionals that work at the hospitals live in my neighborhood. Again, I'm near probably 4 colleges. I'm few blocks away from Meharry Medical School. Meharry's president has also been at the forefront of this. So it's in our faces. So probably my neighborhood, probably 99% of us are wearing face coverings. And really, the only time you really don't see us in our neighborhood with no face coverings is when people are jogging, the serious joggers. I'm not really one, so I'm a walk jogger. So sometimes, but even sometimes when I'm jogging, I don't necessarily wear it, but I'm so isolated that I don't. If I see somebody coming near me and they're 40 feet away, I cross the street. But, take my hometown where my parents still live. It's not as wide, the masks are not as widespread. They only, their shelter in place came much later than ours did. It's not really a rural community, but it's a small town. And so they didn't have the cases we had. They also didn't have the test, which I was trying to explain to people. People were saying, we don't have it here. And I was like, no, you just don't have the test. Of course, I'm always not pregnant if I've never taken a pregnancy test.
Right up until the point where you are.
Yeah, right up until the point where you are. So I don't think it's as widespread, but then to so many people in other communities, it still seems far away. If you're in a community where there are only 2 cases, but it's a small community anyway, you think that people who live in Nashville or who live in Chicago or who live in New York or LA, you think it's some big city problem, and it's not. Hi, I see someone else has joined us. Get a drink. It's Friday.
Hi, happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday.
I'm glad to see you here too.
We are joined by Dr. Diane Bowser.
Hi, Dr. Diane.
Hi.
Have you and Phil have ever met?
We have not.
We never had you guys on the audio. Frank, we never had them both on the audio pod.
Seems like a discrimination thing to me.
I think we did one audio cast. I think we did one audio cast where we met.
Oh, yeah, we did. But we've not seen each other, so it's still a discrimination case. Let's roll with it.
I'm with you.
I tell you, Lou, these attorneys are getting desperate. I don't know.
Hey, I got bills to pay. And the small business, the PPE, the loans are gone. The paycheck protection plan, the money is gone. So I didn't get any.
Me neither. I'm still waiting to hear about the other one.
No. Hey, Grant's on board now too.
Hey, we got more people on. Hey.
And Master Grant has joined us. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you? How's everybody?
We are doing well.
Great as we can be in this incident.
So I saw something, speaking of stimulus money and other things like that, I saw something yesterday about one of the tax things they snuck into the legislation. And it's something to keep in mind. There is a 2-year, you can go back 2 years and write off up to 500,000. I know this isn't going to apply to a lot of people but up to 500,000 in business losses if it's a pass-through business. So, if you had income last year, for example, that you would have been paying a higher amount of tax on a tax bracket, if you can somehow show that you were trying to start a business and it failed, or that there was some loss in that business, you can write that off. And I think they're going to be fairly liberal about that, given that the IRS has most of their staff laid off right now. But it's something to look into and talk to your tax advisor about it. But it's another way to kind of recoup money, so to speak. So.
Yeah, I lost. Another thing about the IRS, I don't know if anybody else on here is in trouble but me and who has outstanding tax debt. But the payment processing center is shut down. So hint, hint, who knows if you sent a check or not?
Oh my.
I like that advice. I like that.
Yeah, who knows if you sent a check or not? It could just be there in a pile, or maybe you never sent it. Who knows?
These attorneys are teaching us sneaky things, Patsy.
You know what? It's always good to know one or two,
One or two. And if you don't, just remain silent.
I've known Frank since I was a kid, so I got dibs on him.
There you go.
So is anybody looking at these tweets from Trump about liberating states? Anybody checking that out? What's going on there?
We talked about that earlier.
We touched on it a little bit. Di, did you want to elaborate a little bit more?
Well, I mean, he's like inciting civil unrest. I mean, I think it's like plain and simple, right? He's encouraging states with Democratic governors to engage in civil unrest about their Second Amendment rights. And it's just nutso. It's like completely gone.
Yeah, because he mentioned the Second Amendment in his Virginia tweet.
In every one of them.
What the hell's going on with the Second Amendment? I mean, does the coronavirus attack AK-47s now?
Apparently. I wonder what the deal is, though. If civil unrest breaks out, that is not going to benefit him. I don't see a benefit there.
Civil unrest is not social distancing.
No, that's for sure. But I mean, there's no political payoff there. I just don't see it unless I'm being short-sighted or something, and you guys have better insights.
But we don't necessarily know that he wants a political payoff. I mean, I've said this for most of his presidency that I don't think he needs anything else or really wants anything else. I expect him, first of all, I will admit to trying not to watch the news as much. One thing that I have said throughout this thing is that we are all going through a traumatic experience right now, all of us. And the one underlying condition that they seem to have overlooked is our mental health. I think if any of us, like got sick at this time, our mental health would play such a big deal. And I just can't do it. I mean, I forced my TV off. I think I have like 2 times I watch it when I first get up for about an hour and then not right before I fall asleep, because I'm one of the people who's having these crazy dreams that they say are being caused by anxiety. But having said all of that, even before this, through his presidency, I've said that I expect him at any press conference to go off and then say, because you all didn't do it my way, I quit.
We're not that lucky.
That would be great.
I'm not necessarily sure that he needs or wants anything else, or that he recognizes that he needs or wants anything else as far as political capital. I think he's played it by ear, or if not, well, he can't really listen. So I don't know. I don't want to say played it by ear, but I don't think he operates like most, even some politicians that you would say where you were adamantly against, at least they had some kind of plan. You may have been against that plan, but at least you knew what it was. We never, I mean, I expect him any day to come out and say, you know, you can't get this virus if you wear one blue sock and one orange sock and wear some Air Jordans or something. So I'm not sure that he cares about any of that, because I'm not sure that there's anything else that he wants. Because nothing is ever his fault anyway, so why would it matter if he loses political capital?
Yeah, here's his 3 tweets a minute apart. Liberate Virginia and save your great Second Amendment. It is under siege. Then he just tweeted liberate Michigan. Then he tweeted liberate Minnesota.
Yeah. Yeah, Michigan is so needs liberation with what's going on in Detroit. But yeah, yep. Which is just a hotbed of this virus.
Flint. You know, the Second Amendment thing is obviously about Ralph Northam and the Virginia legislature had introduced a bunch of bills to try to have common sense gun reform. And that was a hot topic, you know, probably three or 4 months ago. And there was a lot of chatter on conservative radio about that. So that's his like dog whistle to those folks. The other thing about, I guess my take, maybe Master Grant, from listening to you sometimes, you know, on the other podcast that you and Patsy do on Sundays, and I felt a lot of the same way you do about this. I think if there's civil unrest and it couples with this pandemic, it's another reason for him to postpone or cancel elections. It's a reason to, you know, go out there and use the National Guard or any other military force to, you know, say, well, we're in a crisis right now. We need to get control over this situation before we go forward with elections. And then that gives him a right to kind of, or in his mind, or his, you know, people that are pushing him, their mind to say, we can kind of seize some more control and power through this.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
I think, didn't I read something, you would probably know more than me, that if they would not hold that election, the way the Constitution is written, those elected terms end on a certain date, which means like even Pelosi's and everybody in the House. But the way it falls out, that's why I don't think they would postpone it. The people left standing in the Senate whose terms didn't end actually puts the Democrats in charge, and Schumer would be the head of it. He would actually be the acting president of the United States, or they go senior member. It could be maybe some other Democratic senator, but they would actually hold the majority at that point on January 20th.
That's pretty deep.
I don't care if it's in November. I don't care if it's in January. I don't care if I have the virus and 8 other diseases at the time. I'm going to be like that meme that's going around. I will dress myself in a protective suit, swim through a sea of coronavirus, and vote this man out of office. I don't care what, and there have been some elections where, you know, obviously I believe in the right to vote and exercise my right to vote. But I think since I have been a voting age, there may have been one election that I did not vote in for various reasons. I could have an oxygen mask up my nose and I will roll if my last breath is voting in this election, and I do not see how anybody at this time would not vote. It's more important now than ever.
Exactly. I'll be there. I've only missed 2 primaries. I've never missed a general. since 1976.
Yeah, so we are, well, our primary in Tennessee, as some of you all may know, was the day, it was Tuesday, and we got hit with the tornadoes on that Tuesday morning. So our primaries were already destroyed. Some people still made it out and they extended the time at the last minute. I think we could vote up to 10 o'clock. It just didn't work. I mean, you know, it just didn't. We were devastated on that day. Most of us, many of us still did not have power at that time. But this one, if I need to go, in fact, when I get off of this podcast, I may just go to the polls now and just so I'll be somewhere in the vicinity in November. So you all send me a care package to the polls.
You know, I obviously being an independent, I can't vote in the primary here. No, you're an independent too, right?
I was an independent. I
Yeah,
joined
sorry,
the
you used to be.
Democratic Party
That's
because
right.
I want to participate in the
Yeah,
primary.
that's right. But even already, this early, I already sent in my information for my mail-in ballot because, you know, like Lou, I may have missed one election. That I've always been independent, so I've never been able to vote in primaries, and you know, but I not only am I going to vote, and I'm like you, Phil. I mean, I will. You know, what was the saying on Cheers? I'll swim through shark infested waters with milk bone underwear or something like that, right? But I wanted to push the best that I could, mail-in balloting.
Yes.
As much as I could, and we're pretty good about it here. But I you know, it's one of the few times I actually really wanted to make a statement and say, you know what, I'm very capable of going to the polls and voting. It's not a burden on me whatsoever.
Yeah.
I'm still doing the mail-in because there's no way in hell I'm going to let it slide.
Yeah. One thing with mail-in balloting that we're going to have to be extremely careful of this year, again, it probably won't impact anybody, any guests on this podcast, but in the next few months, there's going to be a lot of moving around because of people who are going to have housing stability. You know, some of these landlords are not being that nice. There's a difference between rent forgiveness and rent deferment. And so what we're going to have, for instance, evictions are suspended. They are not, they are not canceled. So what we're going to have in the next few months is when things are semi-normal, is landlords wanting 1, 2, 3, 4 months of rent. You know, a $1,200 stimulus check is not going to pay that much rent. So probably right around September. I mean, ostensibly, if we open back up in May, you know, even mid-May, and then you get people served, let's say that takes another month and a half, you get them served in July. These hearings are going to come up in August and September, which means in August and September, you are going to have so many displaced people. You know, even when we open back up, it's not like one day, one shift is going to get you this rent. So I'm concerned about that with mail-in ballot. You know, my address, I do not think will change between now and November. So if you mail my ballot here, I'm still here. But I am very concerned about the displacements we will have in the next, at the end of the summer, basically.
Oh, that's a great point.
That's
a great point.
Purging rolls too. They're purging all these voter rolls in certain states, right? You combine that with the level of displacement, and you've actively, without doing anything else, disenfranchised a large number of the voters, right? And it falls disproportionately on the Democratic side because that's what upheaval's occurring.
And that I'm sure is just a coincidence.
Yeah.
Anybody still watching them press conferences? I haven't been on in a while, so I have a lot of questions.
The pep rallies? No, we're not watching them at all.
I feel bad for my mental health. I can maybe stomach. I can do the replays because I can fast forward through I have got to protect my mental health at this time, and it's only so much whiskey you can drink before you get a headache, and I have reached that limit probably every day of this day. I mean, it's. But hey, I may need to. Did you see what the Kenyan president did? Speaking of. Had a governor in Kenya, rather, he was sending out Corona care packages with the things that we need, and he was putting bottles of Hennessy in it. And he said, "Oh, really?" He said, "The Hennessy, the alcohol, that's just the throat sanitizer." So I'm with that. So, but no, I've got to protect my mental health. So I cannot. It's so hard. Because you find yourself either sitting there staring at the TV and yelling at the TV or your computer or whatever you're watching it on, or you start getting these strange thoughts. And again, I'm one of the people having the dreams, the vivid dreams. I now know that I'm not too off because I did happen to catch a news story and say that many people have, but I have had the craziest dreams during this time. So I'm just sticking with my whiskey, watching these things, later. And there are a few people that I trust to get news from so that I would open their emails, but I'm not even opening emails from half of the people I consider friends because if I hear one more rumor, coronavirus was started by 5G or or is not really real. In the first weeks, there was this rumor that Black people couldn't get it and we're the ones being decimated by it. So I have to protect my mental health.
I found out something very, very, very important during this podcast. I am definitely living in the wrong part of the world.
You what?
I'm definitely living in the wrong part of the world. If they was giving away Hennessy and care packages,
but
I need one. My wife needs one. My son's good. I'm going to sign couple of my dogs up for it.
Hey, we can do it too, though. We can start giving out care packages. I mean, I think I always keep alcohol in my office, but alcohol is a sanitizer. So I think when we get halfway back normal and I start seeing clients again in person, I will say, in order to get in my office, you got to take a shot.
That's beautiful.
If not, I can't.
That's beautiful. You so need to get your license in Pennsylvania so I can. Oh, hi, Frank. Never mind. You didn't hear that.
Okay, you can have two attorneys.
Oh, perfect. I'll let you guys fight. Over the bill.
Actually, if Frank and I are both your attorney, that still probably only equals one attorney.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I can't watch the news, but I feel like I have to like keep tabs on them, like see what the evil people were up to. A couple times a day, I just like check in, like, oh, okay, they're still evil. They're still doing evil shit. Now they're having protests. Okay, just so I know what's going on, like out in the nutty world. I feel like, because I got to travel in it, and you go to the grocery store up here and you got a guy with a Reopen America sign, like, oh shit.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. You got like 4 people that live, in your part of the world, and 2 of them are freaking nutcases.
I think this time period has just given the nuts an outlet. They have something to do now. They have a cause. It's no such thing as a virus to them. And so they have a cause now. They have some to get on.
What it did is it normalized the stupidity that they like to exercise, and it made people who are actually intelligent, doesn't necessarily mean educated, but intelligent, almost be a backseat or at least equal to it. And you can't have that. There's a reason you're an idiot.
But this is also,
I mean, I hate to sound mean, right? I really do.
Yeah, no.
But there is, you just can't handle normal thought processes correctly. So it's up to the rest of us to take care of you.
What this has also done is this exposed the fact that America is a third world country. There is no reason there is just absolutely no reason that this virus should have had this impact, not on this country. And it's just, I travel so much, and when I go to Africa, people often feel sorry for me and say, oh my God, are you safe? Did you have I was in Ghana a little over a year ago, and somebody said, well, how are you going to communicate with us? And I was like, on my Wi-Fi, like I do when I'm here. Or they said, how can I call you? My phone number is the same. You call it and I pick it up if I feel like it. But this is, we have all this great healthcare and all these great things, and our great first world country has more people dying from this than any other country. We don't have enough medical equipment. That sounds like the stories that you used to hear late at night about give $2 to this country in Africa because they need our help. We need help. I feel like getting online saying, please send me $2 because I'm Black in America.
Yeah, the one thing that we have that other third world countries don't have is we have a very huge consumer base.
Mhm.
That's about it. That's
Yeah.
really about it.
And it really
How-
hasn't helped.
No, well, it's not going to, right? It's hard to be a healthcare consumer, right? Because normally when you're a healthcare consumer, you're sick or you're dying.
Right.
No, you made a good point though, Master Grant. You've traveled overseas. Do you get that same reaction where people look at you and say, "Oh, I feel so sorry for you"?
Well, we have a misconception in our country that we are the first world, first nation, best of everything, which unfortunately is not true. At best, we're a second world nation, and you know, when you travel abroad, and this whole pandemic exposes everything from the top down. It exposes the weakness of our leadership, exposes the weakness of our healthcare system, exposes the weakness of our education system, and it even exposes the weakness of our so-called democracy, because when you look at what's happening, there is a ton of political maneuvering right now, from right-wing NRA scare tactics with the Second Amendment. These things are not coincidence, like Master Patsy, like you said. Is this a coincidence? No, it's not a coincidence at all. This has been thoroughly thought out and is being implemented at great speed and great rapidity. And quite frankly, I'm scared for what's going to happen in November, because we could very well not have an election. We could very well have martial law legally declared, and we could very well become a country that's under a dictatorship.
Boy, what a buzzkill you are.
Yes, I am. You know what, Phyllis, I need to get hand me that whiskey.
There you go. And it's
Somebody hand him the whiskey.
yes, it's Uncle Nearest. I never promote other alcohols because I feel like I should have an endorsement deal. But have you all had Uncle Nearest?
What kind of whiskey is it?
So you know what Jack Daniels is, right? You know Jack Daniels whiskey?
Yeah, other than not Scotch. Yeah.
Yeah, so Jack Daniels whiskey, which is made here in Tennessee, you know, Jack Daniels, the famous whiskey man. Well, there was a slave named Uncle Nearest, and it was really Uncle Nearest that taught Jack Daniels how to make whiskey. And
no shit, really?
Yeah, so they have rediscovered his history, and down there is a whole line dedicated to him. So we drink. This is the only whiskey that I will ever admit I'm drinking. Everything else I put in a glass if I'm taking a picture on social media or something. But yeah, Uncle Nearest. So learn the story, look up Uncle Nearest, learn how this slave never got his credit until like in the last few years. And it's a good whiskey too. So if I can get out, I'll send all of you a bottle of it.
Yeah, please do.
And then when it's over, you have to come take a tour of the distillery and learn about the slave.
Well, if you're going to lead the tour, we'll
absolutely.
We'll absolutely, we'll be there.
When we say lead, but by lead, will I drink the most? Is that what we mean?
You know what, Phil, take whatever way you want to take it. That's fine.
There you go.
Well, you know, that really is wonderful. That's the type of thing that I'm going to go right out and get and see if the state store carries it. And if they don't,
yeah. And if you can't find it, let me know. And if it sells out really fast because they've won so many awards, but I won't even show anybody I think I sent Frank a picture of my liquor collection last night. I may run out of toilet tissue. I may run out of sanitizer and wipes. I will never run out of liquor.
Awesome.
That's what I sent you that text earlier when I say we all have our priorities, right?
There you go. Today I decide if I'm putting on my daytime or my nighttime pajamas and which
Oh, COVID wear. I'm gonna launch like a whole line of COVID wear, like look good. It'll look good from like the waist up, and so you could get on Zoom.
Well, a judge in Florida had to admonish attorneys. Did you see this, Frank? So a judge, you're on mute too. A judge in Florida had to admonish attorneys who were showing up. Some places are doing hearings online. And he had to send out a memo and say things like, please wear a shirt. Please don't be laying in the bed when you argue your case. So I would like to say,
serious?
I'm not licensed in Florida, so it was not me. If anybody's wondering, it was not me. But now I do guess I have to get dressed if I.
You should put the link. You should put the link to that on our Discord channel, Phyllis.
I will, yeah. But it's like the memo is comical, but I mean, he really goes down like, you have to wear a shirt. Do you?
Wow.
What a man.
Get out of the bed. You must get out of the bed to argue a motion.
Unbelievable.
Protocol.
Semantics. You know, there's a pandemic going on. Do we really? Some rules are relaxed. I think now I am for that. You know, I am for relaxing a few rules. Like I think with all of this stimulus check that they passed, with everything else, why did nobody think we should tack a rule, a provision that says weed is now legal? It should just be legal now. Like, why did we not tack that on? You know, the rules don't apply now. The rules are different now.
Yeah, my favorite term right now is force majeure. You know, I've been saying that for a while, and then when the I think it was either one of the soccer federations or the NBA said they may not pay their players, and if they don't, they're going to invoke force majeure and just say, sorry, you know, we can't fulfill our contract. This is something that's out of our control. Well, I mean, we're all in the same situation. Force majeure, right? I mean, oh, I got an obligation to pay my rent. Sorry, force majeure.
Yeah. Nothing should apply now. I mean, I think we should be able to walk down the street with a beer, a shot of whiskey. You know, you got the rent, yeah, pay it. If not, oh well, wake up when you want to. These are unprecedented times. We had no playbook for this. Like everything else, we've had a playbook for. But this, I will admit, the first few days, I didn't know what to do with myself. Like, okay, I'm not going to work. I'm not traveling. I don't know what to do. It took me, I was one of the people, it took me a while to get on, oh, okay, I do. And which is, and it's not the issue of working remotely or anything, because my firm is basically set up where we do most things remote anyway. But I think when I realized that there would be no more happy hour,
it killed you. Huh?
That was a big hit for me.
That's when it got real.
It got real. It got really real.
Yeah, I was but before our pod every Friday, I have an appointment with my chiropractor. And when you do have keto and you're my age, and Master Grant will tell you, yeah, they just become more and more part of your life. But here in our corner of happiness, I often refer to this area as
shithole.
No. Mayberry. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's a mental block. I'm sorry. So very, very, very uptight conservative people, you know, and my chiropractor is no exception. But him and I, we're talking, and we both made pretty good points. Kind of piggybacked on each other, where we said, you know, you're gonna see a lot more civil disobedience, I think, because you have so much stress going on now, and the more you're confined and the less normal you become, the harder it is to stay disciplined. Mm-hmm. And you know, I'm not talking like discipline with somebody telling you what to do as much as it is self-discipline, right? You know, where you need to lash out because your normal everyday activities go away, and your ability to adjust or to cope with things is gone, because basically you're stuck either at home or, you know, feel like you said, going for a walk or, you know, run or whatever. That's about it. That's about as much as you're going to do. You know, it's been a long time since my wife and I have argued as much as we have, right? Because, you know, she's stuck at home. You know, I mean, she goes to work, she goes to the jail a couple times a week, but for the most part, she's home. Well, that's really good for her dissertation, really bad for like everything else in her life, right? You know, and our son has to go to work. He's, for his position at the jail, he has to go to work. He can't do anything remotely. So she has her child who's basically going to a petri dish every day. She's at home, and there's no escape. There's no way out. So this idea of legalizing weed or legalizing these sinful things that we should be having access to anyhow. Yeah, I'm surprised that that never really caught on and no one really tapped that onto anything. That was a bit surprising.
It should I mean, we are on edge, and even if you can't articulate it, we are on edge because most of us will not say, "Oh, I'm stressed today because psychologically I'm really messed up from this." But you know, you get it. There, you know, in the first weeks of this, I was on the phone with my parents, and I was always getting so frustrated with them, anything they would do, and I realized I was scared. My mother's a cancer survivor. She has hypertension and she has diabetes. And my father also has some medical issues, but I couldn't articulate, I am terrified for you guys. And I couldn't bring them with me because in the first weeks of this, we realized that I had been exposed to people who actually did later test positive. So I couldn't jump into daughter mode and say, you're just going to come move with me. So if I would call and my mother would say, I went to the grocery store, I would just go off. Why did you go? Are you trying to die? If you just want to die, you should say it. Because I didn't have the language to say, I am terrified. You know, this thing is terrifying. And so you're right, you don't. You know, I had oral surgery scheduled. I have a crown that is missing, and was bad before this happened, but in the larger scheme of things, so it's non-essential, so it's canceled. So I didn't realize that I had this dull toothache every day. So I was so on edge. People are calling me and I'm getting smart with them. Every client was on my nerves. Every opposing counsel was on my nerves. But I realized I was in pain from this toothache that's with me constantly every day. And so, you know, think legalize weed. If people want to go on their walks and have a shot of whiskey in each hand, you know, there's that meme that says if you got a drink in each hand, at least you're not touching your face. I say, yep. Let's do it. You know, let's do it. These are desperate times. We got to do desperate things, probably so many things that I wouldn't do before that I haven't done. You know, we're even all interacting with each other differently. You know, opposing counsel, every email or phone call, and I don't know if you've had it happen, Frank, starts with, I hope you're safe and happy. That is not how opposing counsel talk to each other, but everything starts like that. And we're on edge. We need some weed. We need some, I think everybody should get a liquor voucher too. Look, if every taxpayer should get a $500 liquor voucher.
That'd be great. Use on your drug of choice.
Yes.
That's all right. Yeah, when they closed the state stores, for me, that's when it got real. But I'm a happy medical marijuana patient. That's essential, right?
Yeah.
And
I mean, people are stressed. I've been on a few Zoom. We had a party last night in our family online. My godson turned 16, and there are probably 40, 50 people on the Zoom. And there's one person on, and I said, are you smoking a joint? And then I was like, actually, don't even worry about it, because true, this is a 16-year-old's party, but it's virtual. And I understand why you're doing it. I wish I had thought of it. So, you know, the rules just don't apply right now.
So while we're talking about shots and things like that, I just want to say thank you to all the people that are watching us, interacting with us on Twitch. I don't see it in front of me, so I apologize. If there's anybody making comments that I would like to respond to directly, or any of us would like to respond to directly, maybe we'll take a look at them tonight and maybe say some things. But thank you for joining us. Please join us in the future. If you like what you see and what you hear, you know, the more the merrier. Maybe we'd like to invite some of our guests on sometime, some of our viewers on sometime. But this is a lot of fun. I think we're running up against our time deadline. These are like 43-minute long Zooms, and I think we're getting to that point. So this has been great. As always, we have a nice full panel today. Patsy, I'll throw it back to you to kind of wrap things up.
Oh, thank you, Frank. First of all, to everybody watching and to some of the folks who are leaving messages, we seem to got quite a few of them on Periscope today for some reason, which was strange. We haven't gotten that before. Yesterday was Mixer. I posted that to everybody. Today was Periscope, and about 195 viewers on Twitch with like no one putting any messages in. But hey, you know what? We're taking baby steps. We've only been doing this for 2 weeks, so pretty good. So for everybody who is watching and and is enjoying what we're doing, please, thank you so much. And please, if you like what you see and you want to support us, please, we have a Patreon page where you can, for as little as $1 a month. All right. For as little as $1 a month. It'll take us about 4 years to be able to afford the whiskey that Phil drinks, but you know, hey, we'll do it.
Never. Just I can ship it out. Hey, the post office, we gotta support, even though you're not supposed to mail liquor through the mail. So I will stop my comment there. But you guys need some, I can get it to you.
but the rest of us are you know, we're drinking Black Velvet, so
Hey, we can all move to Kenya and get the Hennessy in our care package.
hey, you know what? All I got to do is convince my wife, and I'm there. But to everybody else, thank you to our panel. Really, not really guests; they are actually part of the panel. So, you know, I can't really predict when anybody is going to show up. It's really on all of us. You know, whenever you feel like getting in, you just come in. And we've been pretty good. You know, Phil's first time to today was Phil's first time on the show. I hope it becomes a habit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. Dr. Dye, I know you've been busy, but it's good to see you again.
I'm wrestling with that online school and a 14-year-old. I need whiskey. I need all the help I can get.
As we seem to be our regulars, myself, Frank, and Lou, and Master Grant. It's all, before I forget, just let everybody know Master Grant has a race tomorrow.
A race?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. He's got a half
Marathon.
Really?
I'll do well tomorrow.
Wow.
People?
Yeah. So good luck.
Well, good luck.
I would say break a leg, but yeah, no.
I may just break my leg.
We may just do that. So good luck to you tomorrow, sir.
Good luck. Happy running.
Thank you.
Yeah. I hope your time is to your satisfaction. I do. And to everybody, please, like I said, this is definitely something that we all do and participate. I hope to have a group, you know, as much as we can, because it's really important that we do this, especially in these times. So until Monday, for all of us, you can see us, and for Sunday, myself and Master Grant, who will be recuperating from a half marathon. Master Grant and I, as an audio pod, will be up Sunday. Di, are you joining us? Are you?
Sure. Are we? Is it part 3? Are we on part 3?
It'll be part 3. Yeah. Okay. And Phil, if you'd like to join us, please let me know. Just send me a text. If you're busy, that's fine. I understand. But if you want in, please.
Absolutely.
Let us know.
I'll see what I'm doing in this big bad pandemic. My happy hour schedule has been full. My virtual happy hour schedule has been full.
This is a drinking brunch at 2 p.m.
It really is. Yeah, it's the truth. But until then, everybody, thank you so much. Thank you for watching. Thank you to our group for participating. And we will see everybody on Monday, and you can hear us all on Sunday. So until then, goodbye, good luck, and
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Take care.
Stay safe,
Have a good weekend.
everybody. Stay healthy. Have a good weekend.